My name is Eric DeGrove, and I'm the founder of Culture Voyager, and we have a special guest today, Dwayne Frazier. Dwayne spent 8 years in Mexico, where he met his wife, Erica, and they had their first son. And he's also the writer of our profile for Mexico on culturevoyager.com, and I highly suggest you check that out before you travel to Mexico. Welcome, Dwayne.
Good to be here.
Now, I asked Dwayne to join us today to talk about language, to talk about learning language, about that process of learning language. When did you start learning Spanish? Was it in Mexico in language school, or when did you start?
Well, I think like a lot of us, I learned my a second language or studied a second language in high school. And that wasn't the best experience. I think the best was to learn it right on the field, so I learned it in Mexico.
Right.
The class was not, the classroom setting I think was not the best.
So besides going to language school or learning it in school or using Rosetta Stone, other resources like that, what tips do you have for people who want to learn another language?
Well, I think that we have different styles for learning language. So for me, I tend to like to learn things out of a book, academic. Even so, if you're that kind of a learner, I would still say that you need to learn a language in context. So if you can kind of be in, if you can learn it, total immersion, that's the best. If you're just there and you're going to the market, you're interacting with people. Right. I was with a host family. I asked to be with a host family.
And that was during your first trip down there?
That was the first trip, so it was just kind of like jumping in both feet. Wow. It was a little bit scary. Maybe that's not for everybody, but it really produces good results. And again, I'm a book learner, so that you would typically think it wouldn't be as good for someone who learns like me. It was a very good way to learn.
Right, so immersion. Those are great tips. Now, what advice would you have for somebody who maybe doesn't have that luxury of full-time language study or being able to spend, a lot of time being immersed and just studying the language in another country? Maybe their business has sent them to a country and they need to start working, getting things done, fixing problems. What advice would you have for them to study language kind of on the side, or what can they do? Is it hopeless for them?
You're going to be there. You're going to be surrounded by people who speak the language. So they are your resource. You can interact with them. And one thing I would say, I think one of the barriers for a lot of us is a fear of doing something that, we're returning to infancy almost,
Right.
I'd say don't fear making mistakes, even, very embarrassing mistakes. It endears you to the people. It's a great way to learn. And so, just get out there and interact with the people. That's one of the best tips I'd give. Get a good pocket dictionary or app. And, you're going to need those vocabulary words and those phrases. Just be careful. Sometimes it's the word you need is like the third definition down in a dictionary or whatever. And then just if you can find someone who's bilingual, obviously that's going to be a help, but just make sure that person is kind of committed to help you by using your target language. But they can really say, hey, you need to avoid saying this, or this really means this, or there's this nuance here.
So it sounds like two of the keys that I'm hearing from you are you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? You have to get out of your apartment, out of where you're comfortable hanging out with other internationals, other expats maybe, and be comfortable making a mistake, right? You have to be comfortable with uncertainty, not knowing if you're doing it the right way. Right.
Yeah, and people can feel from you that you want to learn. They admire that usually, and they're going to jump in and help you. They're going to laugh at you too. You need to feel free to laugh at yourself, and don't think you don't have to go out and put yourself into really difficult situations or whatever.
Right.
If your personality is much more reserved, just kind of dial it back a little bit. You're going to have to interact in the market again. Go to the market, start out, just with little things, little phrases. There's a great book, Language Acquisition Made Practical, the LAMP program, which is by the Brewsters.
Okay, and we'll put a link to that under this video. All right.
And that's just this kind of total immersion, and they just tell you, just go out there, do it a little, bite size at a time. You're just going to do something today, and you tell them, that's all I have for today. I'll be back tomorrow. It's kind of, that also has the side benefit of kind of cultivating those friendships too.
All right, so for the person that's working full time and doesn't have that luxury of full time language study, you're saying that they should focus on bite-sized language acquisition almost, where they shouldn't just put their hands up in the air and not do anything, but just try to get a little bit each day and be consistent. Right?
Yeah, and the important thing to realize too is in language learning, you're going to at first it's going to seem like there's so much, I can't do this.
Right.
But as you pick up these little bite-sized pieces, they'll start to build on each other, and you'll have these experiences where you'll sense that you're growing a lot.
Right.
That'll plateau later on,
Yeah.
but at the beginning, it's kind of exciting too because you're adding kind of quickly.
Right. Well, these are great tips from Dwayne Frazier. We thank you for being here today at Culture Voyager, and we thank you for listening and being interested in crossing cultures and what you need to do. If you've benefited from this video, please share it on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever you need to do. Share it and drop us a line. We're here to help you succeed anywhere.